everyone. This is 3 Questions with Sherese Nix. There we go. Music, theme songs. All right, so I actually met Sherese at a conference recently, and we just became besties right away, right?
Right.
Like it was what? How long? Like 3 seconds, and we were like,
Well, I think you were shocked by me because I hate to say it, I didn't know who you were. I'm so sorry. And so
I didn't know who you were either. So there you go.
hey, and so I literally walked up to him because he had like this great hair, and I was like, "You've got really nice hair," and that's how we
Right.
started the conversation.
And anyone who compliments my hair becomes my bestie, right?
And
That's
now we're
that's why we became besties, because I'm like, hey, hair compliments, right? At my age, I will take it right away. So Sherese is the executive director of communications for Garland. I've actually, I told you, I said like, right, I think it was within 24 hours of me, and like, you have to be on the podcast. And I've been on the road, been traveling, so we haven't been able to do this. But I have been like watching a lot of stuff that you do on social media, how you connect with people. It's absolutely amazing. So I am like really pumped to talk to you about this. But I also, as we were kind of prepping and planning for the podcast, I didn't even know this. You actually not only executive director of communications, you're a teacher, you're an assistant principal, you're a principal. And so you have this really interesting lens on, like, you have this incredible ability, in communications. Obviously, you know the education profession inside out, and I just love how you mesh the things together. So I'm like really pumped to dig into that part of it right away. So I'm excited. So I asked you to do this part, the 3 questions, and I love the way you tell stories, and the way you tell stories on social media is really powerful. So we'll start with this one. Okay. So when you look back at your education career, whether it's a student or a colleague, who is a teacher that inspired you and why?
So I'm sure everyone has heard this, but people don't remember what you teach them. They are remembered by how you make them feel. And there was a professor by the name of Dr. Jinx Broussard, and she was a professor at my college, and she was completely invested in her students. And being away from school, as a freshman, you're, on your own for the first time, you're 18, you're trying to find yourself. And a lot of times, students at that level, their GPAs, they don't really know how to transition going from a structured environment at home to being open and free in college. And so Dr. Broussard, she was our mama hen on campus, and she took us in and she made us feel like we were, her babies. And she held us to a higher standard than I had ever been held to, other than my parents. An educator who held us to high standards. She would not allow us not to be our best. She didn't accept any work from us. If we turned something in and she knew that we had greater potential, oh, you better believe that it was coming back. Dr. Broussard was going to ensure that we were successful. And so I appreciate her seeing something inside of us, knowing that we had greater potential, and making sure that we maximize our opportunities and abilities that were inside of us. And so I will forever be grateful to her and for her, because she was a staple in who I am today. And I just, Dr. Broussard, if you're watching, I love you, appreciate you. Thank you for all that you've done.
Oh, Dr. Broussard, not only did you get that little shout out, but you get this. You get the actual shout out button. So I love this. And there's 2 things I want to bring up real quick. The first one is that there is this kind of notion that, oh, sometimes we're like too hard on kids and stuff like this too. And I always say this to people, like, if I actually stop giving you advice, like, I'm out on you, right? Like, I've kind of given up. And there's a thing, right? And I think that part of times is sometimes, like, I've had some conversations with administrators saying like, hey, I know this is a really tough conversation that you might have to have with this teacher, but you have to have it if you care about that person. Absolutely. Because no one wants to like do poorly, right? And I think a lot of times they know this. But the other thing I want to point out to you, like when you said this about Dr. Broussard, about how she made you feel, it was when I connected with you, and she would be very proud of you, Sherese, because when I first connected with you, you made me feel like $1 million immediately. And then I like saw you interacting with people. I see how you interact on social media, and you do that with people all the time. So obviously, she set the standard for you, and you live that every day, which I think is like the best compliment, to our mentors, is when we can, take the things that we learn from them and emulate them. So pretty amazing. So I'm sure she's very maybe she'd be giving you one of these. There you go. I love that story. All right. So the next one. So you said you were assistant principal. You were also a principal. You're now working in central office. So you've worked with a ton of administrators, and
Yes.
especially in your role of communications, I'm sure you've seen the good and the bad, right? And you've heard the good and the bad, I'm sure. So when you think of like an administrator that really inspired you, who's someone you think of and why?
This was without a question. I didn't even have to think twice about this person. And this person is Dr. LaTonya Goffney. She is the superintendent of Aldine ISD. And although I've never had the pleasure of working with her, her inspiration and the way that she has mentored me and guided me through this work in administration has been invaluable. So I went to a conference, and at the time I think I was maybe a principal at the I think it was a principal, maybe even assistant
Mhm.
principal. And so I went to a conference, TASB, and it was a superintendent pipeline. And so it was a room full of current sitting superintendents and those aspiring to be superintendents. Now, I don't have a desire to be a superintendent, but I have a desire and quest for knowledge and for learning. And so I want to be in the room with those people so that I can gain broader perspective on things, right? So I was in that session, and for whatever reason, I would make different comments when they would ask questions. And so she came up to me. I never didn't know who she was, and she said, "There's something inside of you." And she said, "You're going to be a superintendent. You are going to be great. You are going to be a leader." And she said, "You have to stay ready so that you don't have to get ready." And she said, "Iron sharpens
Ooh.
iron. Make sure that you surround yourself with people that are going to uplift you, that are going to propel you, that are going to encourage you to do what is inside of you." And so I didn't know this lady from anything. And when I tell you, she was the Texas Superintendent of the Year. She is very accomplished. She is well spoken. She's a national speaker. I mean, she's just everything, and she's not too busy to check in. Every time I see her at a conference, she's like, "How are you doing? What's going on? Where are you?" She's constantly checking in to see, how am I doing and where am I on the journey? And most importantly, she offers, "What can I do to help?" Now, this
Hmm.
lady is like so busy, so big, like an icon, a legend, but yet she takes the time to
Hmm.
say, "I'm still going to invest in you. I'm going to stop what I'm doing to check in to see if you're okay." And I'm just inspired by her leadership, her servitude. She's a servant leader. She makes people, like you said, feel valuable and
Hmm.
comfortable. And Dr. Goffney, I appreciate you, and I will always honor who you are. And if there's anything I can do to help you, just call me.
Dr. Goffney, do you know this, Therese? I don't know if you know this. Two things. Dr. Goffney was actually my first guest this season, and
Really?
she's incredible. But you don't know
Really?
this. You don't know this, and you just actually did something really helpful, not only to Dr. Goffney but me. Dr. Goffney is actually writing her first book with Impress. So we signed her
No.
to a contract. Yeah, we signed her to a contract. So I'll tell you, I'm gonna have to get this cut
Hey,
up when her book comes out.
that's
Just to say,
phenomenal. See,
yeah,
you can
she's
that's
absolutely
top
incredible,
notch. See, right?
right? And so you would suggest everyone should buy her book, right? Whatever
Absolutely.
she writes.
Stop what you're doing. And do we know the name of it yet? Do we know it?
No, no,
Okay.
no.
Well,
Her and I talked recently. We just had a meeting about it because she is absolutely incredible. I've had the pleasure to really kind of get to know her over the last year, and yeah, everything you said is 100% true. And what I love about it is that, and I think this is partly, you go back to the first answer you had. The things that you said about her, I know a ton of other people. It's not just she does that for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, which is
absolutely.
like incredible people, right? When they do that.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was like that's the first time someone's ever mentioned somebody that has already been on the podcast that people are actually familiar with. So I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm glad to cement that.
And you didn't know that, and you didn't
I
know
did
she was on
not.
the podcast.
No, I
Okay,
had
go.
no clue. But when you said to me, like name someone who's been inspirational as administrator, I mean,
Yeah,
it wasn't even a second thought. She
she's
is
incredible.
absolutely phenomenal, and I will support her. And I hope that everyone listening will support her. She's a wealth of knowledge, and there's so much we can learn from her.
And
And
you
so
and you should
I
buy
can't wait.
And you should buy her book.
And you have to buy her book.
You should buy her book, right? Because it's gonna be awesome. She is like, I am like so excited for it. So that was a perfect little plug. So that was, and that just for everyone listening, that was not planned because I didn't know you were gonna say that.
I promise.
So you don't, right? So I was like, yes, this is awesome. All right. So last question. You look back at your teaching career, you look back at all the different experiences, you've had so many different experiences, right? So if you could go back to your first year teacher self, what advice would you give first year teacher Sherese?
I, number one, just want to start off by commending the teachers and setting the tone of appreciation. If you're a current teacher in the field, thank you. Your service, your dedication, your fortitude, your strength, your resiliency, your attitude, everything,
Mm-hmm.
because no one has experienced having to teach through a pandemic, having to teach through learning loss, having to teach through state and federal guidelines and expectations. So those that choose to stay in this profession, number one, thank you. What I would suggest to a first year teacher is that to remember that you're going to face challenges, you're going to have obstacles, but you can never, ever, ever forget that there's learning and leadership in every position, in every situation. It may not be ideal, it may not be what you want, but try to find the positive in every situation. Try to find ways that you can still shine and grow and learn. Because once you take these learning opportunities and you can apply them to your next job or position, it's going to give you a wealth of experience that you would never have had before. So just remember to be in the moment, understand where you are, and learn as much as you can from it.
All right. Well, I'm going to give a little, for all the teachers out there that have gone through such a tough year. I really appreciate when you said there's learning and leading, because I think part of it too is that, and I really hope this is something that not only the people going into the profession, but the people that have been around for a while remember about this. Because one of the things I really despise, I'm going to be straight up with you,
Tell me.
is like when someone says, oh, like you shouldn't be telling stuff if you haven't been in the profession for 10 years. I'm like seriously? Like I can learn from a kindergarten kid, right? Like I'm not saying the kindergarten kid is going to teach me how to teach exactly, but I think like every opportunity, whether you have one day of experience or 50 years, there's opportunities to learn, right? There's opportunities to lead, and I think a lot of times when we have new teachers coming in, that we have to look for and give them the opportunities to lead immediately. But we also hope that they're learning from the expertise of the people in this room, and I think it's both of those things, no matter where you are in your career. So I love how you put that how you put those two together, because I think it's seen as one or the other as opposed to both, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's a really powerful way to kind of actually connect that. So I love it. I cannot wait to talk to you more. And thank you so much for being on. And we are going to have an awesome conversation. And
let's do it.
I can't wait. So everyone, thanks for listening. Make sure you follow Sherese on Twitter. You're going to be totally inspired. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for taking the time to listen.
Thanks, guys.